Victoria Sterling stood in the rain outside Marcus Rivera's small apartment at midnight. Her designer coat soaked through, mascara running down her face. She'd fired 37 people that week without flinching, but now she couldn't stop shaking. When he opened the door in his worn pajama pants, confusion turning to concern, she whispered the words she'd been holding back for 6 months. "I need some love. Don't move." Marcus froze in the doorway, his hand still gripping the doorknob, trying to process what he was seeing. Victoria Sterling. The Victoria Sterling, CEO of TechVance Solutions. The woman who'd hired his tiny freelance design agency 6 months ago and then disappeared from his life just as suddenly. And now she was standing in the rain outside his apartment at midnight, looking nothing like the polished, untouchable executive he remembered. "Victoria?" His voice came out rough with sleep and confusion. How did you even know where I live?" She let out a sound that might have been a laugh or a sob. "I kept your invoice, the one with your address on it. I know this is insane. I know I shouldn't be here, but I didn't know where else to go." Marcus glanced behind him, checking to make sure Emma was still asleep, then stepped aside. "You're soaked. Come in." She hesitated on the threshold like crossing it would change something irreversible. Maybe it would. But the alternative was getting back in her car and driving to that empty penthouse where the silence was so heavy it felt like drowning, and she couldn't do that. Not tonight. Not anymore. Victoria stepped inside and Marcus closed the door softly behind her. His apartment was small, maybe a quarter the size of her walk-in closet, but it was warm and lived in. Children's drawings covered the refrigerator. A pile of laundry sat folded on the couch. Toys were scattered across the floor in organized chaos. It smelled like cinnamon and something baking, like a home instead of a showroom. "I'll get you a towel," Marcus said, disappearing down a short hallway. Victoria stood in the entrance, dripping on his floor, wondering what the hell she was doing. She was Victoria Sterling. She, the 500th, built a company worth $800 million. She'd been featured in Forbes and Fortune. She'd given a TED Talk about leadership that had 7 million views. And here she was, falling apart in a stranger's apartment because she couldn't handle being alone for one more night. Except Marcus wasn't a stranger. That was the problem. Marcus returned with a faded blue towel and one of his sweatshirts. "Bathroom's first door on the left. You can change into this if you want. I'll make some tea." She took the clothes with trembling hands. "Thank you." In the tiny bathroom, Victoria caught sight of herself in the mirror and barely recognized the woman staring back. Her perfectly styled hair hung in wet tangles. Her makeup was smeared down her cheeks. Her $2,000 coat was ruined. She looked human, broken, real. She stripped off her wet clothes and pulled on Marcus's sweatshirt. It was oversized and soft and smelled like laundry detergent and something distinctly him. For reasons she couldn't explain, that made her cry harder. When she emerged, Marcus was in the kitchen area, really just one wall with appliances filling a kettle. He'd put on a Stanford hoodie over his pajama shirt and was moving with the practiced efficiency of someone who'd learned to be quiet while a child slept. He gestured to the couch and Victoria sat, pulling her knees to her chest. Marcus brought 2 mismatched mugs and sat on the other end of the couch, maintaining a respectful distance. "Do you want to talk about it?" Victoria wrapped her hands around the mug, letting the heat seep into her frozen fingers. "I don't even know where to start." "Start anywhere." She looked at him then, really looked at him. Marcus Rivera. 36 years old, according to the invoice she'd memorized. Single father. Freelance graphic designer who also worked warehouse shifts to make ends meet. She'd learned all this during their project together. Learned it from the background of their video calls when his daughter would appear asking for help with homework. Learned it from the apologetic way he'd explain why he needed deadlines extended because he had to work around Emma's schedule. She'd learned other things too, that he had kind eyes that crinkled when he smiled, that he listened more than he talked, that he treated her like a person instead of a title, asking about her day with genuine interest, making jokes that caught her off guard, calling her out gently when her perfectionism crossed into unreasonable territory. And she'd learned that when the project ended and they had no professional reason to stay in contact, the silence that followed felt like losing something she hadn't known she needed. "I'm so tired," Victoria finally said. "Not just physically. I'm tired of being the person everyone expects me to be. I'm tired of going home to an empty apartment where nobody talks and nothing matters. I'm tired of waking up alone and going to bed alone and spending every moment in between pretending that's what I want." Marcus set down his mug. "How long has it been like this?" always. I built my company from nothing. I was 23 with a business degree and an idea and absolutely no safety net. So I worked every hour I had. I sacrificed everything, relationships, friendships, any kind of personal life. I told myself it would be worth it once I made it. She laughed bitterly. Well, I made it, and I have nothing. You have a company worth hundreds of millions. I have money. That's not the same thing. Victoria's voice cracked. Do you know what I did tonight? I went to a charity gala. I wore a dress that cost $15,000. I smiled and networked and gave a speech about corporate responsibility. And the entire time, all I could think about was how if I died tomorrow, nobody would really care. They'd care about the stock price. They'd care about the succession plan. But me? Victoria? Nobody would miss her. Marcus was quiet for a moment. I find that hard to believe. It's true. I spent 10 years building walls so high that nobody can get close enough to hurt me. And it worked. Nobody can hurt me now. But nobody can reach me either. She looked at him with raw desperation. I used to be different. I used to laugh and go dancing and stay up late talking about stupid things with friends. I used to be human. And somewhere along the way, I forgot how. You seem pretty human right now. That's because I'm falling apart. Victoria set down her mug before her shaking hands could drop it. I don't do this. I don't show up at men's apartments in the middle of the night. I don't cry. I don't ask for help. But 6 months ago I met you, and you were so kind to me, not because you wanted something, but just because that's who you are. And when the project ended, I couldn't stop thinking about you, about how you looked at me like I was just a person, not a CEO or a business opportunity or a threat, just Victoria. Marcus's expression was unreadable. I remember. I drove by here twice, last month. I told myself I was just in the neighborhood, but that was a lie. I wanted to knock on your door. I wanted to ask if you wanted to get coffee. But I couldn't because what would I even say? Hi, I'm your former client who can't stop thinking about the way you smile when you talk about your daughter. You could have just called and said what? That I'm a billionaire CEO who's so lonely she's losing her mind? That I go entire weeks without a single conversation that isn't about business? That I'm 34 years old and I've forgotten what it feels like to be touched with affection instead of ambition? Victoria's voice rose and she caught herself, remembering the sleeping child down the hall. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have come. This is insane. You don't need my problems. She started to stand, but Marcus reached out and caught her wrist. His hand was warm and calloused and gentle. Don't go, Marcus. I spent 3 months after our project ended checking my email constantly, hoping you'd reach out with another job. Not because I needed the work, but because I missed talking to you. I missed the way you'd laugh at my terrible jokes on video calls. I missed how you'd ask about Emma like you actually cared about the answer. I missed you, Victoria. And the first didn't know what to do about it because you're way out of my league. Victoria stared at him. Out of your league? You're a CEO. I'm a single dad who barely makes rent. You have a penthouse downtown. I have a 1-bedroom apartment where my daughter gets the bedroom and I sleep on the couch. You wear clothes that cost more than my car. I shop at Goodwill. He let go of her wrist, but his eyes held hers. So yeah, out of my league. You think money matters to me right now? You think I care about any of that? Victoria's voice shook. I would trade everything, the company, the penthouse, every dollar in my bank account to have what you have. To come home and have someone genuinely happy to see me. To belong somewhere. To matter to someone. If you're feeling this story so far, please hit that like button and subscribe for more stories that touch the heart. Marcus stood up, and for a terrible moment, Victoria thought he was going to ask her to leave. Instead, he held out his hand. Come here. She took his hand and let him pull her up. He guided her back to the couch and sat down, then gently pulled her down beside him. What do you need, Victoria? The question broke something in her. I need someone to hold me like I'm not made of ice. I need to remember what it feels like to be warm. I need to not be alone for just one night. She looked at him with desperate honesty. I know what this sounds like. But I'm not asking for sex. I'm just asking for human contact. For someone to act like one matter as a person, not a balance sheet. Marcus studied her face for a long moment. She could see him weighing the risks, understanding how complicated this could get, all the reasons he should politely send her home. But she also saw something else in his eyes, recognition. The mirror of his own loneliness reflected back. Okay, he said quietly. Okay, come here. He shifted to lie back against the arm of the couch and opened his arms. Victoria hesitated for only a second before curling into his side, her head on his chest, his arm wrapping around her shoulders. She felt his heartbeat under her cheek, steady and real. Felt the rise and fall of his breathing. Felt the warmth of another human being who wasn't afraid to touch her. "Is this okay?" Marcus asked softly. "This is everything," Victoria whispered. They lay there in the quiet apartment while rain continued to tap against the windows. Marcus's hand moved slowly up and down her arm, a gentle rhythm that asked nothing and offered comfort. Victoria closed her eyes, and for the first time in months, maybe years, she felt safe. She felt seen. She felt human. "Can I tell you something?" Marcus's voice rumbled in his chest. "After my wife died, I thought that was it for me. That I'd had my chance at love and it was over. I focused everything on Emma because she's what matters. But some nights after she's asleep, I sit here and the silence is so loud I can't stand it. I know it's not the same as what you're dealing with. I have Emma, but I understand the loneliness. I understand waking up and wondering if this is all there is." Victoria's hand found his and their fingers intertwined. "How do you do it? How do you keep going?" "You just do. Because Emma needs me. Because giving up isn't an option. Because most days are okay. And some days are even good. And because I have to believe that someday it might get better." He paused. Maybe it just did. Victoria felt tears sliding down her face, but she didn't move to wipe them away. "I don't know what this is. I don't know what I'm asking for. Maybe we don't need to know right now. Maybe it's okay to just be two lonely people who found each other in the middle of the night." She tilted her head to look up at him. "You're not what I expected." "What did you expect?" "I don't know. But not this. Not someone who makes me feel like maybe I haven't completely forgotten how to be human." Marcus smiled, and it was the same smile she'd memorized from their video calls, the one that made his eyes crinkle at the corners. "You're more human than you think, Victoria." She settled back against his chest, feeling exhaustion finally catching up with her. For the first time in longer than she could remember, she wasn't afraid of sleep. Wasn't afraid of the dreams of the waking up alone or the crushing awareness of emptiness. Because right now, in this moment, she wasn't alone. "Thank you," she whispered. "For what?" "For not turning me away, for not making me feel crazy, for this." "You're not crazy, you're just human. We all are." Victoria's breathing began to even out, sleep pulling her under. The last thing she was aware of was Marcus's hand gentle in her hair and his heartbeat steady beneath her ear. She felt herself letting go, trusting that when morning came, she wouldn't wake up to the familiar emptiness. Marcus stayed awake long after Victoria fell asleep, staring at the ceiling and wondering what he'd just done. This woman in his arms was technically still a client, even though their project had ended months ago. She was powerful and wealthy and complicated. Getting involved with her could mess up everything. Could hurt Emma if it went wrong, could destroy the careful stability he'd built. But it had been so long since he'd held someone. So long since another adult had needed him for something other than labor or deadlines. So long since he'd felt that spark of connection that made the loneliness bearable. He looked down at Victoria's sleeping face. Without her corporate armor, she looked younger, vulnerable, real. Her breathing was deep and even, her hands still clutching his shirt like she was afraid he'd disappear. She'd come to him because she had nowhere else to go. And something about that trust, that desperate leap of faith, made his chest ache. What happens in the morning, he thought? Do we pretend this didn't happen? Do we talk about what it means? Do I ever see her again? He didn't have answers. All he had was this moment. This woman sleeping peacefully in his arms for the first time in who knew how long, and the strange certainty that something had shifted. That whatever happened next, neither of them would be quite as alone as they'd been before. The rain continued outside. The apartment stayed warm and quiet, and Marcus held Victoria Sterling while she slept, two broken people finding temporary shelter in each other's loneliness. Just before dawn, he finally dozed off, his arms still around her. That's when Emma's door creaked open. The soft patter of small feet on hardwood woke Marcus first. His eyes opened to pale morning light filtering through the curtains and the immediate awareness that he wasn't alone on the couch. Victoria was still curled against him, her face peaceful in sleep, one hand resting over his heart. Then he saw Emma standing 3 feet away in her unicorn pajamas, clutching Mr. Hoppy, her battered stuffed rabbit, and staring at them with wide, curious eyes. Marcus's heart stopped. He'd been so exhausted, so caught up in the strangeness of the night that he hadn't thought about what morning would look like, hadn't planned for his 7-year-old daughter finding him holding a woman she'd never met. "Emma," he whispered, trying not to wake Victoria. "Sweetie, it's early. Go back to bed." But Emma didn't move. She tilted her head, studying Victoria with the intense focus children bring to unexpected things. "Who is she?" Victoria stirred at the sound of voices. Her eyes fluttered open, unfocused and confused for a moment before memory returned. Then she saw Emma and went completely still. "Is this my new mommy?" Emma asked with the pure, innocent hope that only a child who'd never had a mother could muster. The question hung in the air like a grenade. Victoria sat up quickly, trying to put distance between herself and Marcus, her face flushing red. Marcus swung his legs off the couch, running a hand through his hair, scrambling for words that wouldn't crush his daughter or terrify the woman beside him. "Emma, no, sweetheart. This is Victoria. She's a friend. She just needed a place to stay last night." Emma stepped closer, unbothered by adult awkwardness. She climbed onto the couch between them, with the fearless confidence of a child who'd always been loved. "Are you Daddy's girlfriend? He's been really sad. Are you going to make him not sad?" Victoria looked at Marcus helplessly. He could see panic in her eyes, the same panic he felt, but underneath it something else, something that looked like longing. Victoria started, then stopped. She looked at Emma, really looked at her, and Marcus saw her face soften. "What's your name?" "Emma Rose Rivera." "I'm 7.5. Well, 7 3/4 really. My birthday's in January. I like unicorns and drawing, and my teacher says I'm very good at reading." She held up Mr. Hoppy. "This is my rabbit. His name is Mr. Hoppy. Daddy gave him to me when I was little. He's very handsome," Victoria said, and Marcus heard her voice catch. "I'm Victoria, the first. The 1000th. The first. I'm a friend of your dad's. Do you like pancakes? Daddy makes pancakes on Saturday mornings. It's Saturday." Emma looked at Marcus with hopeful eyes. "Can Victoria stay for pancakes?" Marcus looked at Victoria, giving her an out if she needed it. She could leave, should leave, probably. This was way more than she'd signed up for when she showed up at his door last night. But Victoria surprised him. "The first would love pancakes," she said softly. "If that's okay with your dad." Emma cheered and ran to the kitchen. "I'll get the chocolate chips." Marcus and Victoria sat in the awkward aftermath, not quite looking at each other. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "I should have set an alarm, should have woken up before her." "It's okay." Victoria stood, smoothing down his sweatshirt that she was still wearing. "I should probably go. This is complicated enough without Victoria." Marcus stood too, catching her hand. "Stay, please. Emma's right. I do make pancakes on Saturdays. And honestly, I'm not ready for you to leave yet." She looked at their joined hands, then up at his face. "This is insane. We barely know each other. I showed up in the middle of the night falling apart. Your daughter thinks I might be your girlfriend. This is moving so fast." "I know, but maybe we just have breakfast and see what happens." Victoria was quiet for a long moment. Marcus could see her CEO brain working, weighing risks and outcomes, trying to maintain control of a situation that was already wildly out of control. Then her shoulders dropped and she nodded. "Okay, breakfast." In the tiny kitchen, Marcus pulled out the pancake mix while Emma chattered nonstop at Victoria, who the 500th taken a seat at the small table. He watched them from the corner of his eye as he measured ingredients. Emma had already pulled out her coloring books and was showing Victoria her latest drawings, a series of increasingly elaborate unicorns. "This one is Princess Sparkle," Emma explained seriously. "She's the queen of all unicorns. And this one is Rainbow Dash. She's not from the show, I just like that name. And this one doesn't have a name yet because I can't decide." "She's beautiful," Victoria said, and Marcus heard genuine interest in her voice, not the patronizing tone adults sometimes used with children. "What about Starlight? Or Moonbeam?" "Moonbeam." Emma's face lit up. "That's perfect. How did you know?" "I used to love unicorns when I was your age. I had a whole collection of unicorn figurines." "Really? Do you still have them?" Victoria's smile faltered. "No, I don't know what happened to them. That was a long time ago." Marcus poured batter onto the griddle, listening to Emma quiz Victoria about her favorite color. Blue, her favorite food. She had to think about that one. Probably Thai food, whether she liked dogs or cats both. And if she believed in magic, a careful, "I believe in things that feel magical." He'd expected Victoria to be uncomfortable, out of her element with a chattering 7-year-old. Instead, she seemed to relax. The corporate mask he'd seen slip last night was completely gone. She laughed at Emma's jokes, asked questions about school and friends, admired drawings with genuine enthusiasm. "Daddy works really hard," Emma announced suddenly. "He has 2 jobs and sometimes he falls asleep during movies because he's so tired. But he always helps with my homework and reads me stories. He's the best daddy." Victoria's eyes found Marcus across the small kitchen. He felt exposed under her gaze, aware of how his life must look to her, the struggling single father barely keeping his head above water. But there was no pity in her expression, just something warm and complicated. "He sounds like a very good dad," Victoria said softly. "Do you have any kids?" Emma asked with the blunt curiosity of childhood. The question hung heavy. Marcus saw Victoria's hands clench on the table. He was about to redirect the conversation when Victoria spoke, her voice steady despite the pain Marcus could see in her eyes. "No, sweetheart. I don't have children." "Oh, that's sad. Kids are really fun. I'm fun." Emma grinned. "Maybe you could borrow me sometimes, if you want to remember what it's like?" Victoria blinked rapidly, and Marcus realized she was fighting tears. "That's a very kind offer." "Emma, help me flip these pancakes," Marcus called, giving Victoria a moment to compose herself. Emma bounced over and Marcus lifted her up so she could flip the pancakes with the spatula, both of them making a production of it. When he glanced back at the table, Victoria had wiped her eyes and was watching them with an expression that made his chest tight. They ate breakfast together, crowded around the small table, Emma monopolizing the conversation with stories about school and her best friend Sophie and the class hamster that had escaped twice. Victoria listened attentively, asked questions, laughed in all the right places. She fit, Marcus realized. In this small apartment, with its worn furniture and mismatched plates, Victoria Sterling fit like she'd always belonged. After breakfast, Emma asked if Victoria wanted to play with her. "I have a whole bin of Barbies. We could do their hair." "Emma, Victoria probably has things she needs to do," Marcus started. "Actually," Victoria interrupted, "the first would love to play Barbies, if that's okay." So Marcus cleaned up the kitchen while listening to his daughter and Victoria on the living room floor, styling doll hair and creating elaborate storylines. Victoria did voices for the different dolls that made Emma shriek with laughter. She asked Emma's opinion on outfits and careers for the dolls, treated the game with the same seriousness Emma did. Marcus leaned against the counter, coffee mug in hand, and watched them. Victoria's hair was still messy from sleep. She was wearing his old sweatshirt and her probably ruined designer pants from last night. She had no makeup on and was sitting cross-legged on his worn carpet making a Barbie be an astronaut because that's what Emma had decided. She was the most beautiful thing he'd ever seen. Around noon, Emma started to get tired from her early morning. Marcus suggested quiet time in her room, and Emma agreed without her usual protest, probably worn out from entertaining their guest. Before she went, she hugged Victoria around the waist. "Will you come back?" Emma asked. "To visit again?" Victoria looked at Marcus over Emma's head. He saw the question in her eyes, the uncertainty. He nodded slightly. "Yes," Victoria told Emma. "If your dad says it's okay, I'll come back." "Yay!" Emma squeezed tighter, then ran off to her room. Alone with Victoria for the first time since morning, the weight of everything settled between them. Marcus gestured to the couch, and they sat, maintaining careful distance. "Your daughter is wonderful," Victoria said quietly. "She liked you. A lot. She doesn't warm up to everyone that fast." "I liked her too." Victoria's voice was thick with emotion. "She's so full of life and joy and curiosity. You've done an amazing job with her. I'm just trying not to screw her up too badly." Victoria turned to face him fully. "Marcus, I need to be honest about something. When Emma asked if I was going to make you not sad, she was right. You are sad. I can see it in the way you move, the way you smile, but it doesn't quite reach your eyes. You're lonely, just like me." Marcus looked down at his hands. "Yeah, I am. I love Emma more than anything in the world. Being her dad is everything to me. But sometimes, after she goes to bed and it's just me in the silence, I remember what it was like to have a partner. Someone to talk to about the little things, someone to share the load with. And I miss it so much it physically hurts. I understand that feeling. The thing is, I made peace with it. I told myself this was my life now. I had my chance at love, and it ended. Emma is enough. She has to be enough." "But she's not," Victoria said softly. "But she's not," Marcus agreed. and that makes me feel guilty, like I'm being ungrateful for what I have. Victoria reached out and took his hand. Her fingers were cool and soft. You're allowed to want more than just survival, Marcus. You're allowed to be lonely. You're allowed to want adult companionship and romance, and someone who sees you as a man, not just a father. Is that what you see? When you look at me, she met his eyes. I see someone strong and kind who does everything for his daughter and nothing for himself. I see someone who let a crazy woman into his home at midnight because she asked. I see someone who made me feel more human in 12 hours than I've felt in 5 years. Her voice dropped. And yes, I see a man, a good man, the kind I didn't think existed anymore. Marcus's heart was pounding. Victoria, the first need you to understand something. Emma's already attached to you. If you're going to leave, it needs to be now, before she gets more invested, before she starts thinking of you as something permanent. And you? Victoria's eyes searched his face. Are you attached? He should lie, should protect himself. But he'd spent the night holding her in the morning watching her play with his daughter, and he was so tired of being alone. Yes, he admitted. I'm attached. I started getting attached 6 months ago during video calls, when you'd stay on for 10 minutes after we finished work just to talk. I've been thinking about you for half a year. So if you're going to walk away, please do it now before I fall any further. Victoria's hands were shaking. She pulled them back and wrapped her arms around herself. I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to be vulnerable or open or let people in. I've spent a decade building walls because walls were safer than feeling anything. I'm not asking you to tear down all your walls. I'm just asking if you want to try, to see what this could be. What if I hurt Emma? What if I hurt you? What if I'm too damaged to be what you both need? Marcus shifted closer, his hand gentle on her shoulder. What if you're not? What if you're exactly what we need, and we're exactly what you need? What if we're all broken in ways that fit together? Victoria looked at him with tears streaming down her face. I'm falling in love with you, both of you, and it terrifies me because everyone I've ever loved has left or died or given up on me. I don't know if I can survive losing people again. Then don't lose us. Stay. Choose to stay. What are you asking for exactly? Marcus took a breath. I'm asking if you want to try this, whatever this is. I'm not asking you to move in tomorrow or be Emma's mother or anything that big. I'm just asking if you want to come back. Have dinner with us. Spend time together. See where it goes. Your life and mine are so different, Marcus. I have board meetings and business trips and 18-hour workdays. You have Emma and 2 jobs and barely any time. How would we even make this work? I don't know, but I know that last night was the best sleep I've had in 2 years. I know that watching you with Emma this morning felt right in a way I can't explain. I know that the thought of you leaving and never coming back makes me want to chase you down and beg you to stay. He cupped her face gently. I know I want to try. Victoria closed her eyes, leaning into his touch. I want to try too. I'm terrified, but I want to try. Then that's enough. We'll figure out the rest. She opened her eyes. Can I come back? Tuesday night? I could bring dinner. We'd like that. Emma would love that. And you? Marcus smiled, and this time it reached his eyes. I would love that too. Victoria leaned forward and pressed her forehead against his. They stayed like that for a long moment, breathing the same air, letting the weight of the decision settle. Then Victoria pulled back and stood. I should go. Get cleaned up. Process all of this. She looked down at his sweatshirt. Can I keep this? Just for now? Keep it. At the door, Victoria turned back. Marcus saw the vulnerability in her face, the fear warring with hope. Marcus? Thank you for not turning me away last night. Thank you for seeing me. Thank you for being brave enough to knock. She kissed his cheek quick and soft and full of promise, then left. Marcus stood in the doorway and watched her walk down the hall to the elevator, still wearing his sweatshirt, her designer coat draped over her arm. She looked back once before the elevator doors closed, and the smile she gave him was real and warm and hopeful. Marcus closed the door and leaned against it, his heart racing. What had he just agreed to? A relationship with a woman whose world was completely different from his? A CEO who could buy and sell him 100 times over? Someone who lived in a penthouse while he struggled to make rent? But then he remembered the way she'd looked at Emma. The way she'd cried when his daughter offered to let Victoria borrow her. The way she'd held him last night like he was her anchor in a storm. The way her walls had crumbled to reveal someone desperately lonely and achingly human. Emma's door opened and she patted out. Is Victoria gone? Yes, sweetheart. But she's coming back Tuesday. Emma's face lit up. Really? She's coming back? Really? Emma threw her arms around his waist. I like her, Daddy. She's nice. And she makes you smile for real, not just pretend smile. Marcus hugged his daughter close. You're too smart for your own good, you know that? That's what Miss Jennifer says at school. Emma pulled back and looked up at him seriously. Are you happy, Daddy? Marcus thought about the question. About Victoria showing up at his door. About holding her while she slept. About the promise of Tuesday night and whatever came after. About the terrifying, wonderful possibility of not being alone anymore. Yeah, Emma. I think I might be happy. If this story is touching your heart, hit that like button and subscribe because these three broken souls are about to build something beautiful together. Over the next 3 weeks, Victoria became part of their routine in a way that felt both surreal and completely natural. She came over Tuesday and Thursday evenings after work, bringing dinner from nice restaurants that Marcus would never have been able to afford. She'd show up in her business clothes, all sharp lines and corporate armor, then change into jeans and one of the sweatshirts she'd slowly accumulated from Marcus's drawer. She learned Emma's bedtime routine, learned that Emma liked her sandwiches cut diagonally, not straight across, learned that Tuesday was library day, and Emma always needed help picking out books, learned that Marcus fell asleep during every movie after 9 p.m., no matter how hard he tried to stay awake. For her part, Victoria changed in small ways Marcus noticed. She smiled more, laughed easier, started talking about things other than work. She told them about growing up in foster care, bouncing between homes, learning early that the only person she could depend on was herself. She cried when she talked about it, and Emma had crawled into her lap and hugged her until she stopped. Marcus fell deeper in love every day, with the way Victoria read bedtime stories in different voices, with how she'd show up with coffee on Thursday mornings when she knew he'd worked a double shift, with the way she looked at him across the dinner table like he was something precious, with how she fit into their lives like a missing piece finally found. One night, after Emma was asleep, they were sitting on the couch, their spot now, and Victoria said something that changed everything. I want this to be real, not just visiting, not just dating. I want to be part of this family. Marcus's heart stopped. Victoria the first, no, it's fast. I know we're still figuring this out, but I don't want to keep one foot out the door anymore. I don't want to keep pretending this is casual when it's the most important thing in my life. She turned to face him fully. I want to be here for Emma's school plays and doctor's appointments. I want to wake up next to you instead of in an empty penthouse. I want to build a life with you both. You're sure? Because once you say this, once we make this real, there's no going back. Emma will be devastated if you change your mind. I won't change my mind. I've never been more certain of anything. Victoria took his hands. I love you, Marcus. I love Emma. I love this life we're building. And I'm done being afraid of it. Marcus kissed her then, deep and certain and full of everything he'd been holding back. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, he rested his forehead against hers. I love you too, so much it scares me. But I'm done being scared. So what do we do now? Marcus smiled. Now, we figure out how to make this work, together. Victoria smiled back, and in that smile, Marcus saw their future messy and complicated and absolutely perfect. They'd found each other in the darkest moments of their lives, two people who'd forgotten how to hope, learning to believe again. They were building something new from broken pieces, and it would be beautiful. Sometimes the love we need finds us when we're brave enough to ask for it. When we're strong enough to say, I need some love, don't move, and mean, don't leave me, don't give up on us, don't let this moment pass. And sometimes, if we're very lucky, the person we're asking loves us enough to stay, to choose us, to build a home in the wreckage of our loneliness and call it family. That's what Victoria and Marcus did. They stayed, they chose each other, and they proved that sometimes the most unlikely connections become the most unbreakable bonds, because they're built on truth and vulnerability and the courage to love again after loss.